that money on gambling or drinking beer. So there was a kind of also decline of the neighborhood, so to speak. That was actually the starting point for JAF to say that we need to bring some renewed awareness in our neighborhood, because this is going down, and the self-esteem, and there's fights in the area, so it's going down. So we need to bring in some positive vibe again, and that's why one of the owners of a rooftile factory in Jatiwangi asked his brother, who was an artist in Bandung, to come back to the region and to start a kind of art house, or work with art and to revive the neighborhood. They did that quite successfully, also international, quite renowned, with some tools that I will show later. But then a second wave of change, or third wave, so to speak, wave of the area came in, and now that is, and it's happening right now. The area has been revived by a new highway, a highway from Jakarta to Majalengka. The programming of garment industry, so there's a lot of new factories with garment industries where people start to work and to have a so-called decent income. But what a friend of mine said is like, de-skilling is killing, because all the knowledge that there is of whatever disappears, and the skills that there are like de-skilled by going to work in a garment factory and having a so-called decent loan, decent income to go to the shopping malls or whatever. So there's an important kind of thing going on there. And soon, I mean it's already open, but soon there will be the largest international airport of Indonesia. So what Jatiwangi did is they worked hard on community building, on self-esteem and awareness and building together, but actually they are losing this kind of energy, because the whole area will change dramatically again. And the big question is, who will be your new neighbors? You have worked with a lot of people, but this connection starts to go away because of time and money. And the question is, you lose energy of that these projects actually don't succeed to somewhere. They were very successful in certain aspects, but because of this new wave of neoliberal activity, you could say, they have to refine with whom do we want to do this together. Because maybe you experience as well, if you work together with people, if you work with social groups, it costs a lot of energy. It's time consuming, it's energy consuming, and after a while, after 5 years, you really get tired. And you have to revive that energy, or you just think like, oh, fuck, this was so hard, I don't do that, I will never do that again. But I think it's important, and it's also important for other people to understand that it takes energy. Because to have a job somewhere else also takes energy, so that's not the thing, but it's good to be aware that everything takes energy. And for them is, with whom shall we share energy, or who has energy? And I think that's an important thing in collaborating together is, or with communities or with a group of people, is always important to find who has energy. It's not just like working with people like, we live in a very little village, and we say, I want to work with the community, so we work all together. That doesn't work like that, but because maybe you don't want to collaborate, you really want to collaborate, you think like, I don't know what they talk about, but okay, I'll join. So you also need to find people who have energy and can transfer that energy to other people. That's a very important thing, and that's where they are at this moment. Like, we need to make a next step. What I like about the attitude of Indonesian practice in general, but also it resonates in art, is the use of space. This is the site of Jatiwangi Art Factory. It was a former roof tile factory. On the top side is the entrance of the space, and on the right side is at the end you see the entrance, and then to here is the end of it. And so you see there's a site on the right and the left, that's one whole compound. But what they do is neighbors just can use the space to go to their home. So there's often people passing by the site. So there's a kind of course you can go to your home through our house or through our space, because else you have to make a detour. So I think that's a very nice or interesting attitude. My space is also your space. It's not my private space. If there's a logic of going from one side to the other side through my room, then okay, use it. And even if it's impossible for your own context, like in Rotterdam it's quite difficult to have that attitude, it's good to exercise these things, to give space. For example, you have, just think about something small, but maybe you have a small room, maybe 12 square meters, and somebody asks, can I stay over, or I have to go far back to Taiwan or Taipei, can I stay over? And you think, I don't have space. An exercise is to say like, yes, whatever. Oh, and there's two other people. This is impossible. Yeah, they can stay over, and you'll find a way. And I think it's a good way of exercising how to use space, and what is my space and what is the other one's space. There's many examples of a shared space. Once there was, I slept at somebody's house. There were youngsters with motorcycling hanging around at the front door, and so they put the motorcycles on the way out. So we asked, can you take away these motorcycles because we cannot pass? But then the owner said, you can park your motorcycles in our garage, so we can pass. So he said, you can park the motorcycles in our garage, and he did not say, guys, just go away, this is my house. So we drove out of the house. The guys went back to the front door with their motorcycles in the garage, and they asked Kingi, who are these kids? Where are they from? I don't know. So he didn't even know these people. But actually we just needed to go away with the car, so the motorcycles were the only problem, not the people were the problem. And I think it's good to practice this kind of attitude. And I think you don't need to be an artist to do that. Actually, there's one artist there. Another example of giving a kind of awareness of the strengths of a region, of an area, or is because I said before it was the roof tile industry, and now it's changed into kind of garment industry with international investors, and also with this woman who went to work in Middle East and also in this area actually. It's important to understand your soil, where you come from, and what that has as a quality, instead of dreaming of something else or something far away. And what Jav did, unfortunately I didn't have better images. I also should have a video, but I don't have. They started the Jatiwangi Cup. And what means the Jatiwangi Cup? It's they approach different owners of the Jebor what? Jebor factories, roof tile factories, Jebor.
West Java?
Yeah, in West Java, the Jebor. I don't know what it means exactly.
That means West Java.
It's West Java. These roof tile they went to the roof tile factories and asked for workers to join the Jatiwangi Cup, and it's a kind of, how do you say that? The strongest man, or the most. How do you say that? Like this bodybuilding competition. It's based on the idea of a bodybuilding competition. So they ask companies that still exist to address their workers to join the bodybuilding competition and also to contribute some money to be able to organize it. And they make a whole festivity about it, and everybody can join, like the not athletic and the athletic and everything in between. And then they have to lift roof tiles. You can see on the left above. They have to like stand and then take the roof tiles. And then there's on the right you see the man who won with the Jatiwangi Cup trophy. The idea is that the one who wins is from a certain factory, and then the factory needs to organize it the year after. The question, is this art or not, is not at stake here. It's one of the many activities that Jatiwangi does to revive an understanding of what is this region about, and to have a understanding of how to organize things. We can organize it ourselves. We don't need to go to the mall, we don't need to go to an amusement park, but we can organize events ourselves. And I think that's an important aspect. And also humor comes in here, like everybody can join and you can make fun and don't be serious and be very serious. There's some rules as well that you have to work like more than 3 months in a factory, not shorter, because you could also hire people who do gym every day and then give them a contract for 1 week and then you win the cup. But there's a rule like that. And some people train during work or after work with tools they have in the factory. They don't go to the gym itself, but there's always some place that you can do. So there's also inventivity on that aspect. Can I say something more? Maybe a question about this, or maybe you need some more explanation, or you're wondering.
We should have leave some time for discussion.
Yes.
Yeah.
What they also did is 10 years Massi de Pan, I think, a 10 years future program. So they went with the whole community and to discuss together how do you see this region develop in 10 years, where do you want to end with? So they had made a whole ceremony about it, and it's a kind of neighbor dialogue of understanding where the area idealistically or in concrete detail would go to. This refers to the word numpang, but actually I forgot what numpang is. But what I think is important is that it also as a part of a new direction in world-making projects. And I think something that a professional field forgets is that how to talk to people or how to address people, not from a formal platform, but from an informal platform. And I don't know if you can, if somebody likes to explain a little bit what numpang is.
Numpang is actually when you, how to explain? I don't know how to like explain in English, but numpang is a Javanese word that means like if you want to stay in someone's house, it means that you are numpang in that house. Or when you ride a motorcycle on the back, it means like you are numpang in the bike. So I don't know like the term on this yet.
Is it something like the guest? The guest.
Yes, no. It's like numpang.
The lodger?
It's a verb, I think.
Maybe to add her a sentence is a verb, like two people as a host, I'm willingly a guest to use my property for free, like without expecting anything in comeback. Like what she says is like, if I have a house and I have a free space and then have some condition that you have to numpang in my house. So it's numpang, like you staying in my house with free, and I can even like give you some hospitality and something.
And important in this is that it's not about a survival strategy or like a need, but it's more like making place and not an urgency of like shit, we have to make, we have to collaborate of all the direct need, but it's inherently talking together and giving space to each other. And that's important in the kind of, for me, in a new direction in world making projects, that you talk to people, that you involve yourself with your projects. They asked me once to help the renovation of their space because the building was a bit broken and still is kind of broken a little bit. But they got a lot of money from, not a lot of money, they got money from the province to renovate the building. And if you see the two pictures above is the old situation. It's a small space and now it's became a very big space. So they are stuck with this kind of new formal outlook. So they also question, what should we do now? How can we connect to people? How can we stay true to the program we have? There's like informality, it has become a bit more difficult. So that brings the question of we have to find new neighbors, we have to find new collaborators. I wanted to say that, yes, this renovation, they asked me to help for the renovation, to make a program for the gallery renovation, but then at the end they got the money from the municipality, and I didn't need to renovate itself. But then I came to understand that the renovation of JAF actually, and that counts with many different things, the renovation of JAF is not a cause of JAF itself, but is of the renovation of the region. And I think that awareness was very key for me. JAF got the money to renovate because of this new airport, because of this garment style, textile industry. And that's the most important thing. This means that you will have new neighbors. That means that relations will be broken. That relations that you build up for years are in danger. So that was one of the most interesting findings of like, neighborism is important, and a neighbor is not maybe your direct neighbor, but maybe in several villages. Some people in several villages that are close to you, or maybe it's even neighbors in different parts of the world. And I think that's why neighbor is not only your neighbor around you, but also neighbors, people who share with you energy on different levels. And we made a little program about it, that archiving and knowledge is important, that de-skilling is killing, understanding what the garment industry means, understanding what feed the organism means, like how to feed each other, what do we need what is required. And any place is a place, or any space is a place to exhibit. So the exhibition can take place here and doesn't need to be in a gallery. Maybe the exhibition here is much more important to have it here than in an exhibition space. Another collective is Life Patch. Life Patch is a collective of about 9 people, I think. On the pictures 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 people. And they don't call them artists, they call themselves citizens, initiative in art, science and technology. Maybe there's 2, 3 official artists in the collective, and even only one openly declares I'm an artist. What is important for me with Life Patch to talk about is that how to work together as a group. Working together as a group is quite difficult, I think everybody understands. And how to work with a group of 11. So working together doesn't mean that you have to work at all times together as a group and that you have to agree on the agenda of the program. So there's no like, oh yeah, let's decide we're gonna do this, and then you did that. What is interesting in life, but everybody has a different kind of focus, a profession, an amateur kind of focus in different ways. And the programs itself through the different platforms that they involved in. So it could be that 2 people work on something and 3 other people on something else. And I think that's a very nice way of a distributed program, that you don't need to agree, but that you can be surprised by the members of your collective. And maybe I'm opposed what you 2 are doing in that group. I think that's not the way we should go with life. But and after 2 months, oh, that's what you were doing. Now I'll also know you better. Like, and I think that's important to understand in collaboration, that you can go different ways as long as there's trust to each other and an understanding that a different perspective, working with different perspectives is hard and difficult, but it's so much valuable for understanding what you are working with. It's maybe a little bit abstract. I don't know if you know the Taichung Asian Biennial. It's worthwhile to see. It's in Taichung, of course. Do I say it right? Taichung?
Yeah, right.
Taichung, yeah. They had an exhibition there. They worked together with OCAC, also an art organization in Taipei, also worthwhile to see. And they had like 7 different projects that they did, and they bring it together in one exhibition space. One of them is about plants. One about them is about quinine. I don't know if you know the whole issue with quinine. What's the better word of it? That they use for tropical disease. Some people work on that, and some people work on healing. So if you visit the exhibition, you will see different workshops around there. And there's also an instrument of a music maker, and he is part of I had it in my mind, but now I forgot the band. Indonesian noise folk band of 2 people. Maybe I come back to later. I don't know if people know G0V Taiwan or TV. It's also an interesting group, and if people know more about that group, I'm interested to hear. And I'm wondering what the difference is between Live Patch and Golf TV. That's what I wanted to say. Individual strength is important, and different practices coexist next to and through each other. A collective or collaborative practice as a practice of different overlapping activities that form a whole. I think that's what a collective means. Distributed leadership is more important than unity. Conflict in the group is always part of the deal, and distributed leadership is a way to overcome it. Sometimes the one speaks more than the other, and vice versa. Walk the Rock is the last example. I think how many times do we have? Yeah. Walk the Rock is an interesting artist. He's a musician, well, not a musician, music programmer, artist, and community builder from Jakarta. And what is interesting also with Indonesian art practices is that it often starts from a popular culture, because popular culture is a way to communicate with each other. We can start from talking with a neighbor about, about the neoliberal questions in Vietnam. But that's hard to talk with people. So it's more easier to talk about a rock star from the 70s, and then through that you try to say what you are doing. And he is also strong in supporting communities, which is also an aspect of Indonesian culture. This is a work, Burn Your Idol, and where he asked people about their favorite music and burn a CD of it. And then there's a phrase I thought was interesting: nothing could do better to represent my depressed soul like rock and roll. The runaways save me into peace on my transition from a teenage girl into a woman. There's nothing that is not good. I mean, if this sentence is art or not, it's a true, gentle expression of somebody. And that's where it starts. A true, gentle meeting with people, or an understanding of people. And whereas we in West Europe, or in my area, Benelux, sometimes take art too serious and already make too many steps in front. And maybe for your profession it's also sometimes difficult that you're like in the high theoretical zone and that you forget to step down sometimes. And it's good to realize that. What he did as well is he made a trash squad, and as we all know, punks are seen to be what are punks? Punks are like scam of society, or brats, or not taken seriously. Maybe that changed a little bit. Punks is maybe now more fashionable than it was before, but it was like trashy people. What he did in an artwork is that he collected punks, and maybe it's here a little bit, but for sure in Indonesia, if you go to a family market or 7-Eleven, people don't buy but just sit around outside and have a maybe drink that they bought inside, or maybe not, but they hang around, sit there, and just actually leave the trash. So what he did, he mobilized a group of punks, called them the trash squad, and they go to clean these places. It's a very gentle act, and also to show what is the image of the punk and what does the punk stands for. And that was a very nice thing. Then he was forced to make it into an exhibition. So what you see is here is actually the residues of the many acts that they did in the city. And I question, should you really like show the brooms and the flags and make something out of it? You see also the jackets that they wear. I don't know. I don't think it's a good way to present it like that. And we discussed it thoroughly. But this was a presentation at the Jakarta Biennale of 2015. They forced him into doing that, and sometimes it's also good to force yourself and do something that you naturally not would do. So it's also good to try to write an article for a certain kind of magazine, although you don't believe in that magazine. Also to know what that other thing is. Maybe another nice quote of the power of Indonesia is with this family mart of 7-Eleven. The power of nongkrong, or sit together and talk together without a real need. That term nongkrong means this approximately, is that they can kill 7-Eleven. 7-Eleven was for a while in Indonesia, but because of the act of nongkrong, of hanging around and using these spaces for something else, 7-Eleven went out of Indonesia. They went bankrupt. So, yeah. So activism can also be very gentle just by doing nothing, so to speak, just by doing nongkrong. It's a very interesting method of killing things, consciously or unconsciously. That's why also that example of the foundation in the protest, like this discourse on Twitter, is this foundation good or not, or you should use this foundation or that foundation. It's a very normal habit of doing things. A last thing of what Walk the Rock does is he did some artworks around a lottery system, like people give money and then one people get the money. Here again you see the use of popular culture, magazine style. He did some of these works, but actually, and they were nice. I have joined some, and I made a drawing for him also once. They are nice, but actually what happens is this talks to art people, art collectors, curators. So to a limited kind of group of people who already understand what this kind of means collaborating, a collective pot, a collective money pot. So he's kind of frustrated with that, and he said, and I quote, "Fuck the fucking art system," unquote. And I said, we should not talk like that. You already did this kind of works, and you are doing the same kind of, or you want to do credit kind of work outside the art world, and we have to stand strong. That is our art practice. So we should not say we give up it. We give it up. We need to find new words, new ways of convincing ourselves and our colleagues that that is a decent art practice.